Nested class in Java allows one class to be defined inside another class. So for example, I declared here a class person. What we can do is we can declare another class inside the person. So we can say class, and for the name of the class, we can say address. Let's say it's an address for the person. Now, as you can see, it has allowed us to create it. And the inner class can be two types. One is a standard class. The second one can be a static class. And here I am essentially creating what can be an attribute as a class, but this is just to demonstrate how we can create inner classes in Java. Now, inside of the class, we can of course have methods, print address. Similarly, let's make it as public. Similarly, here we can have print phone, and for both we can do system dot out dot println, and we want to print an address. Now for address, what we can do is we can declare a string address, and in the constructor we can declare, and we can say should be phone, and we can say this dot address is equal to address, and here we can print out the address. This should have been phone, and similarly we can create address, and for constructor public address. Similarly, system.out.println the address. So these are two classes. Now, few things to keep in mind. First of all is why would we need something like a nested class? Nested class essentially helps in grouping. Just like any other features of a programming language, one of the issues that a modern programming language try to resolve is how do you logically group things and make it easier and more readable. So nested class is useful for logically grouping some feature or helper class inside of the class itself, which does not need to exist outside. So that's one usage. The other usage is, of course, it increases the encapsulation because we are creating more encapsulated behavior inside of the class. And of course, due to this, as I mentioned earlier, it improves readability of the classes. Now, if we go to hello world.java, person is equal to new person. And after that, what we can do is we can do person dot address is equal to person dot new, and then we can give the address, and for address we can pass some address name, and I have to declare a variable here. Address is the variable, and then next what we can do is here we can do address dot print address, and this is going to print out the address. Let's make the address class as public. So let's compile and run. And once we run this, we can see 1, 2, 3 street. Now this is an important factor we need to consider. It needs to be public. Otherwise, we will not be able to access it. And same, let's do with the phone class. Now we'll try to create the object of the static class. Now for the static class, given this phone class is static, the object creation pattern is going to be a little bit different. So for this class, what we'll have to do is we'll have to do person dot phone is equal to, and instead of using the person object and then dot new to create the inner class, here we'll just directly do new person dot phone. And for phone number, we'll give 123 1234. This is the fundamental difference between accessing an inner class, again public, it has to be public inner class, which is a non-static class versus a public inner class which is static class. And then here we can do phone dot print phone, and after that if we just compile and run this application, we should be seeing both the address as well as phone number as expected. So this is how we can declare inner classes. Now, one thing to keep in mind for inner classes is if there are variables at the top level class, for example, string, name, and let's declare the value here also. So John is the name. Now here, this inner class will have access to the name. So it can say name plus address. Now here, as expected, name will not be accessible because, for obvious reason, this is a non-static member, whereas this is a static member. Now to access a name, the easiest way to do is pass the top level class as a constructor parameter, and then here we can declare, and then inside of the constructor we can say this dot person is equal to person. And now here we can do the same thing. We can say person dot name instead of name plus phone number. So now if we compile, we need to pass the person object here, which we forgot. So let's pass the person object that we created up top. Now let's compile and then run. And we can see John 123 Street, John 123 123 1234, the phone number as expected. So this is how we can use a outer class level variable inside of an inner class. Now if the variable is static, of course it can be used by both the classes. So if we declare a static int count is equal to 2, this count will be accessible to both into this one as well as the static class, and for obvious reason because static members are accessible both by static and non-static classes. Let's compile and run just to show the output. Now one thing to keep in mind, if we declare string address here, and let's say we declare a constructor for this class which takes the string address, and here inside of the constructor we do reads dot address is equal to address. Now at this point what we are trying to do is we are trying to access this one. Now what is going to happen is, since we have address declared here as well, this address is going to shadow this one. Does not matter what we pass in the address here, whatever we pass to this address is going to override this value. So this is something to keep in mind. So here in person, if we pass 987 road and compile and run, it should not have any impact on the output, and we still should be seeing 123 street as the address, as you can see this, because if the same variable is declared in the outer as well as inner class will always override. But here, if we have a public method void print person, and here if we do system.out.println, and we can say address is the address. In this case, and if we call the person dot print person in the end, now for the print person, we are going to see the address of the top level, which is 987 road. And you can see person address is 987 road. So this is something important to keep in mind, because the inner class will always shadow the variable with the same name and same type inside of the inner class. This is a feature I wanted to talk because it's an important feature, and to understand some of the other features like anonymous classes and lambdas, it is important to understand inner class. So that is all I wanted to cover for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel and you think you are getting value out of this channel, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks so much for watching this video.